Oh, it looks like it's doing a little bit better for YouTube, believe it or not.
Oh, good.
Wow.
Yeah, that's our go-to. We were on NBC Sports Network for a while, and we were on a few different places, different platforms, and then on the Audience Network. But
Yeah.
now things are going very well. And a lot of people appreciate YouTube because obviously it's free, and you don't have to worry about the weather or anything like that. And
Right.
just there's a lot more people that have access to for free clicking on YouTube as opposed to having to have had DirecTV and finding where the Audience Network was. So we've gotten a lot of feedback positively that the show's on YouTube. People that from around the world sending emails or calling and saying they've never been able to watch the show before, and now because of the YouTube link so everything happens for a reason, I guess.
Yeah, and as a matter of fact, it's showing that we're live right now, which I don't think we're supposed to, because I couldn't even give you the 3, 2, 1 countdown. Hey, that's COVID-19 for you right there.
There's nothing to hide. We got our clothes on. We're gonna chat and have some fun. Yeah. Whoever's eavesdropping, that's fine with me.
Do you have pants on, Fritzy? Come on.
I do. I have sweatpants on. I'm wearing a Georgetown shirt because Patrick Ewing was on the show this morning. And even though he joined us on the phone, so he couldn't even appreciate it because he couldn't see me with the Zoom link we use. I still wanted to wear something show and guest related. So I got my Georgetown, and it's funny because my son starts Syracuse. Hopefully, if things allow for the school year to start on time, he's in a few months heading up to Syracuse, a longtime rival in the Big East of Georgetown. But
that's right.
He'll have to forgive me. That was way past his, way before his time. The whole
that's right.
Big East rivalry between Cuse and the Hoyas.
Yeah, I'm just getting ready to cue up some music. I usually start my show off with some music, then I welcome everybody in. So, but like you say, right now it's live. So whoever's watching, we're rolling with it, my man.
Sounds good.
I'm a one-man show.
I'm impressed.
I'm like that dancing guy on the corner in New York. Guitar, microphone, harmonica, dancing monkey.
They teach you at a young age, especially in this business, the more you can know about everybody else's job, be multifaceted, and those are the most reliable, important people, the ones that can do a little of everything. So.
I'm trying to diversify.
I know I couldn't do that if there was a board up and they needed me to run the board or something like that. I'd be like, I guess we're not doing the show today. I don't know how to hit those buttons.
Ladies and gentlemen, we tried to go to the platform of Facebook Live. That just did not work out for us. Here it is, Cinco de Mayo on a Taco Tuesday. And get this, the irony is we're suffering from the Corona pandemic. And I've got Fritzy. I got Todd Fritz, executive producer from the DP show, right here with me live.
Couldn't think of a better place to be. Thanks for inviting me, Scott.
Oh,
do I call you Coach? Do I call you Scott? What are we comfortable with? I don't want to disrespect how we just refer to you. I'm very sensitive to those things.
Hey, you can call me your follically challenged brother if you want. I'm okay with that
too. I was going to wear a hat too. Now you got to bring that up. I should have worn my hat.
Hey, listen, no worries, man. Hey, it's an honor and a pleasure to have Todd Fritz on with us live here this afternoon. As I said, we couldn't get live to Facebook, but we'll make sure we get this over to that format. Todd, how are you? How are your family? And how's everything going out there your way?
We're doing well. I say the same thing to when I have to check with my mom every night because if she doesn't hear from me by 11 o'clock Eastern time, she thinks something horrible happened to me. And this was way before any kind of pandemic or coronavirus. She's just a neurotic Jewish mom that needs to hear from her children. So I check in with her, even if it's for 2 minutes to say hi, and then she can ramble on about how Stop and Shop or whatever a supermarket came to deliver her groceries in great detail. She tells me everything about her day because she's lonely and wants to hear from her family. But we're doing good. I take walks like a zombie around the neighborhood because I can't go to the gym yet. As far as I know, I think they're still closed and no one wants to touch each other's equipment and all that kind of thing. So I'm booking guests. I'm hanging out with the family. The kids are doing their e-learning. My son's a senior in high school, so he's kind of disappointed that the way the senior year, anyone that's a 2020 graduate, whether it's high school, college, or what have you, they're kind of getting screwed over as far as ceremonies and the pomp and circumstance of graduation. My wife's a teacher, so she's playing with the technology and trying to teach students how to read over the computer, which is a challenge. But my daughter's a freshman in high school, and she's doing her thing. But thank God we're all healthy. We're feeling good. We're obeying the social distancing rules, and I'm basically booking guests and walking the streets. It's Groundhog Day every day. You don't know Wednesday, is it Monday, is it noon, is it 4 o'clock? It doesn't really matter these days what day of the week it is. It's all very repetitive. And then, trying to stay away from the depressing news of, all
Yeah.
the different stats of what's going on and when sports can resume and when just life can resume on some sort of normalcy, whatever that's going to be in the coming months.
That's right. Well, hey, I'm glad you're here with us. This is going to be a lot of fun. We're going to have a lot of laughs. I'm going to share this with you right from the get-go. Let me show you a little love.
Now we're talking.
Okay.
Anything Broncos related, you got my love and attention.
Okay. So I can't really say I'm a true Bronco fan. I was born and raised in Indiana, had a great basketball career in Indiana, Hall of Famer. Matter of fact, tell DP I'm ready to take some shots against him.
I will tell him. He'll probably invite you into the man cave because he always likes to have the home court advantage and put everybody in their place.
Oh, I seen him put it on Gottlieb and everybody. So come on. Hey, but I'm an Indiana boy, so I can shoot that thing. So
you can.
I'm sure I'm not making him nervous at all, but I'll come in there and get him a little nervous when he sees how wet that
sounds
thing
good
is.
to me. You know how much he loves his basketball, and anyone that wants to talk hoops or shoot around with him, the instant buddy. He's like that.
Got to, yeah. So of course, growing up in Indiana, I loved Peyton Manning, and then when he, of course, didn't re-sign with those Colts and then came out here, I was so happy to see him kind of stick a little dagger in there winning that Super Bowl. And I'm sure
you know what? I totally dislike Peyton. I respected him, but he beat the Broncos many times. And it's one of those guys that's like if you said, what if Tom Brady went to Denver instead of the Buccaneers? I don't know how I would handle that. I know the Broncos, I think, have the only winning record as far as in the playoffs against New England than any other team. So I take a little pride in that. If that stat is correct, I think Denver's the only one that has Brady's numbers as far as a winning record in all their years of playing each other in the postseason. But I learned to love Peyton. I always found it very annoying with the audibles, and I'm like, just snap the ball already.
Omaha.
When he was at the Colts, but all of a sudden he's on my team, and it's the greatest thing. Take 9 years to snap the ball, and take it down to the last second on every play. If you see something, you got to change the play. What became really annoying when he was a Colt became fantastic. And Super Bowl 50, we'll take a third Super Bowl championship ring.
There you go. And I was pumped to see it happen. I was wearing the jersey. And matter of fact, I went to a Super Bowl party wearing that thing, and they said, he looks like Peyton Manning. I thought, man, I was better looking than that. But anyway,
he's got a great personality.
Yeah,
whether you think he's particularly handsome or not, he's the greatest. And unfortunately, he's not interested, I guess, in doing the Monday Night Football thing or going to a booth just yet. But if you've seen him, which I'm sure you have on Saturday Night Live or all the other things he does with ESPN and the different shows,
self-deprecating
places.
Yeah, I love the Peyton places. I binge watched it like 2 Saturdays ago.
It's really impressive.
What a great job he does with it.
And he's always cool with Eli. They've done like little skits and commercials together and stuff.
Yeah,
and, to be that good. To be that good in your profession and have that kind of personality, he's not going to be hurting for other opportunities, whatever that may be, whatever he wants to do.
Huge fan. I'm a huge fan, as you can tell. I don't have many jerseys of people, but I do have his. So I think I would get Mahomes though. I kind of like his game.
I hate to say that I really enjoy watching him play, especially except when it's Monday night and all of a sudden he's switching hands on 4th down, and I'll never forget that play when the game was over. And you remember that he switched hands.
Heck yeah, through it. Yes, unbelievable.
If that doesn't epitomize what Patrick Mahomes is and what he can do, so it's tough. He's very likable. I've met him a couple of times. We've had him obviously on the show a number of times. But when you're in the AFC West, it's instant hatred for the Raiders, Chiefs, and Chargers. And now Denver went from a perennial division winner and playing for conference titles and Super Bowls. Now we're at the bottom of the barrel. And I'm hoping Drew Lock and Judy and the kid out of Penn State. I just hope that there's good times ahead and we can somehow keep pace with that Chief team, especially their offense. So we'll see. Elway's gotten kicked around in recent years for maybe some decisions that weren't great, but we'll see how it plays out. But I think we're improved. I don't know if it's enough to make the playoffs or make a run at Kansas City, but it's time to go back to those years, hopefully sooner than later, when Denver was the team that you would see atop the AFC West.
They're in that Philadelphia 76er stage. They're in the process.
Yes,
they're building.
The process continues. But I do like what I saw the last few weeks in Drew Lock, and he's got a lot of spunk, and he's got an attitude, and there's something about him where not that I had bigger hopes for Joe Flacco. That obviously didn't work out, but you dance with who brung you, and it'll be Drew Lock for the foreseeable future, and hope that he's the guy. And we have to keep looking for the next Elway or Manning and somebody that can kind of hold the reins for a long time. So we're not bouncing around as we have, which has been a disaster. All these different quarterbacks that didn't really, unfortunately, amount to much in recent years for Denver.
Yes. Well, ladies and gentlemen, this is the Coach Scott Fields. You're watching the Coach Scott Fields Show. Please subscribe subscribe to our YouTube channel. Give us the like or follow on the Coach Scott Field Show on Facebook, and keep the comments coming, keep the questions coming. Hit that emoji, hit the reactions, and let's share this content. We're having a great time here with Fritzy of the back row of the Danettes.
Yeah. I don't even know how the suck it back row thing happens. And sometimes I'll say suck it front row or suck it front left or whatever, but we have fun with that. And what initially felt like an insult has become just a silly, fun, I think it's like a love tap kind of thing.
That's right.
I think McLovin may get a little more sensitive than myself about it, and I'm the sensitive one in the group. But I take it in a loving kind of, not hatred kind of way. And it's funny that, not that I'm recognized all the time, but on the occasion when we used to be able to go to sporting events, or I'd be out with the family, even if it was once in a while, for someone to come up to you and say, suck it back row, I found that very amusing. And I took it as like a virtual hug kind of thing.
That's right. Now you own it, man. It's a great thing. Like I'm saying, I bet I've watched that show every morning. Either it's on a TV in the background, or I've got my headphones in watching it if I'm on the computer, and just thoroughly entertained. And I watch your guys' show, and just the chemistry works. Kind of like watching Ernie Johnson with Shaq and Charles.
Oh, that show's incredible. That's a major compliment to put that in the same breath as what they do inside the NBA. We're trying to obviously entertain and inform, as any show would do. But the biggest compliment you can get is basically what you said when you talk about chemistry and how, and obviously it's unscripted. No one's like, when we make little jokes or things are happening on the fly, guests are being booked on the fly, people are calling in. We're not writing okay, you're going to say that, and then Dan will say that, and then I'll jump in. There's no time for that. And the audience would pick up on that very quickly. So the only thing that's really written ahead of time is Paul Papps will put together, a show rundown. We'll have a morning meeting. We'll discuss, we'll be obviously instant messaging each other in case there's any other guests on the fly based on breaking news or something that was discussed in addition to the guests that have already been booked. But other than some general topics for those 3 segments each hour, for a total of 9 segments for the 3-hour show, a lot of it's just we're taking Dan's lead and we're winging it. If I think I got something amusing to say, or they'll smack me around if I say something that caused a major left turn, which I'll do sometimes, whether it's a mock headline or some bad impersonation, whatever it is. Everyone has their role. Everyone does what they do very well. And like you said, the chemistry, when someone comes up to us and says, you guys, I feel like I'm hanging out with you guys and you're part of the family, and I could totally see you in my living room or at the bar with you guys, and and that they have that comfort level that they want us to be part of their daily life. And even some that have said that they were either sick in the hospital or something, they lost their job, whatever it is, that we brought somehow a smile on their face or
That's
comfort. Right. But the power of radio and TV, to have a job, a career that you love doing, because I'd be, if whatever I was doing for a living, I'd be following and talking sports all the time anyway. That for you and I to be able to do this for a living and talk sports, and for people to be motivated or moved in some way by what we're doing, they help them get through a tough moment in their life, or it brings just a laugh or a smile. What's better than that? I want to, again, I don't want to overstate it. We're not, we're not first responders. We're not essential workers. We're not doctors. We're not saving lives, but joking around about sports and pop culture, and to get an email or something on social media, or someone that recognizes you in the street and says, just want to tell you that, keep doing what you're doing. You make us feel good. We look forward to those 3 hours. Sometimes I can't watch it live. Right. I'll listen to the podcast, whatever it is, however you consume what you and I do. It doesn't get much better than that. It makes me feel so good that all that hard work, all hours of the night, trying to track down guests and thinking of poll questions or topics or what we're going to do each day, especially when there's no sports to really not talk about, but there's no games to recap. You got to be extra creative. What are we going to do for 3 hours every day?
Yeah.
There's no games. Thankfully, we've been able to find stuff. And I think everybody's done a tremendous job on the show, trying to continue doing what we need to do and have people feel like it's worth listening to, even though there's no live games going on.
Well, without a doubt, right now, it's so important. It's so vital. And you guys are providing that respite. But what I like about it is your guys' ability to connect. You connect with your audience because, 1, it is organic. 2, it is raw and it is real. And that's what I enjoy. And that's my whole magnetism to that, and being a fan of the show. So
well, I appreciate that. We've gotten each other's nerves sometimes, and well, it's a small group, and sometimes with every bit of kidding, Dan, and again, I'm the sensitive one. on. Dan may say something to me, and I'll just drive home, and that's like almost an hour drive from where the studio is to where I am now. Right now, thankfully, my commute is just going down the steps from the bedroom, but it will go back to reality, and I'll be back in the car driving back and forth. But something will be said by one of the Danettes to me, or especially if Dan says something, and it'll play in my head for the whole ride home. Is he kidding there? Was he upset with me? Did I really take it too much of a left turn where I threw him off his game and I kind of messed up a segment of the show? And then I'm calling my wife because I need her to talk me down and be my therapist. I think Dan might be mad at me. I don't know if that was a joke or not. And then I find out later on he was totally joking. He'll send me a smiley face or thumbs up emoji. And I was so aggravated and upset stomach, and so worried that somehow I upset one of the other guys, especially our esteemed host. And I don't handle, constructive criticism well, or any joke that I feel, I get offended right away. So I got to you would think after 18 years working with the man, I'd have a tougher shell and a tougher skin back from our ESPN radio days. We've been literally doing this together for 18 years, starting beginning of June coming up. And I'm proud to say that I've been working with Dan for that long a period of time.
That's awesome. Well, Fritzy, how did you get into the industry? Where did you start, and how did it manifest to where gosh, to me, I think you're award winners. To me, I know the Emmys come up, but hey, you guys are right there. To me,
thank you.
You guys are the Mount Everest, and I'm hanging out with the llamas and the Sherpas and the dung, but we're building ourselves up anyway.
Of course. Well, I'm hoping the third time's a charm, but obviously this is our third year nominated for Sports Emmy for an outstanding daily show. And I think 2 years ago, MLB Network won it, and then last year was PTI. Very noble and formidable opponents, if for lack of a better word. But we're friends with all these different shows and hosts, and we've had all these guys on. So there's a lot of camaraderie there. But would it be nice, for the third year in a row, as great as it is to be nominated 3 straight years, it would be nice to win one. And we were joking around recently. I don't know if you heard that. Watch, this will be the year that we somehow win, when there's no show, there's no thing to go to where you can make a speech. It has to be a virtual ceremony.
Yeah.
There's no big deal. Like the last 2 years, you went into the city and there's food, drink, and pomp and circumstance, and you're and there's a whole big show attached. And this would be the year that I think they're holding it up till next year. Whatever it is, I think they're either going to do something virtually or they're going to postpone it. But it would be nice to get the word whenever that is that we had won the thing. But to your point, we're all trying hard. And again, if we can inform and entertain and make everybody feel good and get the right guests on, it's a good thing.
Well, you do a great job booking, but just to circle back.
That's right.
How did you get into
I got on a tangent.
We both did.
I was a junior at NYU, and I was working out at a gym in Brooklyn, and I ran into this guy who was working out next to me, and we just got to talking. We were talking sports, and it turns out he was like what they called back then a tape op, when you're editing the tape with the razor blades. So he was a tape op / desk assistant in Astoria, Queens, where FAN was before they moved to the city. And I said, I'd love to get a job in sports. I asked him how he got involved. And long story short, he said, then you should apply for an internship. I used to think WFAN was at Shea Stadium, now Citi Field. I didn't even realize it was at Kaufman Astoria Studio, some building. I don't know, for whatever reason, I thought it was near the broadcast within the actual stadium somewhere. That's where WFAN was. So I didn't even know where it was. So I applied for an internship. I was studying journalism and mass communications at NYU. And I went, it was January of, 1990. It was a snowstorm, and my brother drove me in a snowstorm for the interview. 2 weeks later, about a week or so later, I got word that I got accepted for the internship. And then a week after that, 2 weeks after the interview, I started as an intern. I'm learning how to bulk carts. I don't know if you remember those carts, these magnetic things you had to run. They used to put things on a tape, audio, but it was called a cart back then. And I learned how to use the reel-to-reel machines and record things and edit stuff. Got a chance to work with, Mike and the Mad Dog and Susan Waldman and the Imus and the Morning Crew, which Mike Breen was doing the sports for that. And here I am in the newsroom, and there's Mike Francesa and Chris Russo and Imus and Ed Coleman and Dave Sims, Ian Eagle, Susan Waldman, Steve Levy, you name them, they were all there, and I'm learning from the best. So here I am at the first all sports station, in the country here in New York, doing an internship, and then I got hired for part-time work. And then one of the program directors offered me a job to move to LA to help start an all sports radio station, KMPC. where I produced Jim Lampley, Morning Drive and Afternoon Drive. It was the Rams, Angels, Clippers, and UCLA were on that station at the time. So I did that for a couple of years. Then I became up close with Roy Firestone, the researcher.
Yes,
Roy,
I had him on my show a couple weeks ago.
I love him. He does a lot of impersonation and everything, but obviously he's known for making everybody cry with his interviews from Sports Looked
Not
Up
going
Close.
to make me cry, Roy.
He's amazing. I've been blessed to work with a lot of amazing interviewers. And so then that was my first TV job, was in LA in Hollywood with Up Close with Roy Firestone. And then it became Up Close with Chris Myers and then Gary Miller. And then then a show called Unscripted with Chris Connolly. I worked with Jim Rome on the Talk 2 show on ESPN2. So I've been very blessed and worked in big markets with big name people. And I'm very proud of that. And it's not lost on me that these opportunities in New York and LA, in the two biggest markets, there are people that struggle for many years to just to get in the business at all. And you got to bounce from one local station to another, and to have started in New York and then LA and then ESPN in Connecticut and worked on Sports Center and ESPN News and different shows. And then eventually with Dan, which was with Rob Dibble and Sean Salisbury, if you remember back in the day at ESPN Radio at the Bristol headquarters. Here I am sitting in the newsroom, or I'm in a meeting with all the executives and big shots to go over the day of how the different ESPN entities are going to cover the day sports. And I was representing ESPN Radio in the Dan Patrick Show. I had a seat at the table.
Wow.
That stuff is like, wow, this is great. And I'm blessed that the right people recognized my abilities and, afforded me opportunities without me having to constantly run around with my resume saying, hey, look at me, how about me? Things just kind of fell into place, and it just motivates you, and you keep working hard because you never know who's watching or who's listening. When I worked in the middle of the night at FAN, I didn't think all the big shots, the program directors and general managers, they're never going to know what I'm doing. I'm working like 1 a.m. to 8 a.m. editing tape in Astoria, Queens. Who's going to, in the basement there? That's where the studios was. It was in the basement of this building. But there were people that were watching, and you never know who's keeping an eye on you, and word of mouth. Hey, keep an eye on this Fritz kid. He's an up and comer. He's really a hard worker. Maybe we should give him a chance to book some guests and produce one of these shows. And I'm very proud of that.
That's awesome. And here you've had this great run with DP, the Dan Patrick Show, and you guys chop it up every day. But hearing how you got your chops in early and worked hard, and let that take you where you needed to go. My career, come on, my passport has more ink than Wiz Khalifa. I'm traveling all over the place.
But it makes you a better person. You're meeting all kinds of people, and you're learning.
Yes, sir.
You're learning what it takes to make it into the next, up climbing the ladder, if you will, of success, and then getting to a place where you have your own show. That's a big deal. It's just so many people that wish they were doing anything in sports. Think of all the resumes that ESPN, Fox, NBC, CBS. I'm sure they get stacks and stacks.
Yeah,
and only the very best can make it. And even those people are going to have to be willing to work crazy hours, weekends, middle of the night, holidays for like no money just to get a foot in the door. So again, none of that is lost on me, and it motivates me every day to try to be a little bit better than the day before. And Dan expects that, not perfection. He expects us to be, now that we're in recent years that we were on-air characters. Back in the ESPN Radio days, I was just in a little cubicle booking guests, and you wouldn't even know that I worked on the show. There was a guy named Phil the Show Killer, was the board op / producer. So I would book the guests, and he would end up getting the credit as if he lined them up. But I didn't have an ego about it. I was doing my business, and I was just glad to be part of the show. But now that we're on the air, Dan expects a lot from us. Let's get if we can't get that guest on, who's the next best person? What are the topics of the day? Now more than ever, with no live sporting events, we really got to be on our game, and the creative juices of filling up 3 hours. You could take some calls and read some emails and all that, and have some fun with some pop culture, and we kibitz with each other. But 3 hours, that's a monster amount of time with what's going on in the world. How you can't just recap the Bucks game or talk about this trade or what happened in the Reds Cubs game. There's none of that going on. There's virtual horse racing and auto racing going on, and ESPN showing South Korea what baseball games. There's thankfully they had the NFL draft, and
that's right,
and the Bulls documentary.
Yeah, the Last Dance right now.
So at least there's a few things to hang our hat on and play off of to
you had Korean baseball last night. Like you guys say, #Warrior. Every day's the Super Bowl, baby.
It really is. And again, now more than ever, Dan's expecting, hey, bring something to the table.
I love it.
When you're going to ESPN.com or Fox or whatever it is, any of the other websites, and the top story is like really what Mike Tyson's maybe coming back and he's training or something like that. Or Ryan Newman won the virtual, I don't want to call it fake, but the virtual NASCAR race, or Secretariat edged out Seattle Slew in a a pretend horse race. These are the like stories that, what are you going to do with that for 3 hours? You better get some sleep and get up nice and early and be refreshed and let's go. What do we got? Because Dan's got plenty of ideas, but he expects me and McLovin and Seton
all chip
and
in.
Paulie. Let's go. This, we got 3 hours to fill, and we don't want it to sound like we're just trying to, skate by and fill 3 hours.
That's
Again,
right.
The audience picks up on that if you're just mailing it in.
That's right.
We're here to, we want to laugh, we want to be informed and entertained, and we're not going to tune in every day if you're just going to say, "Woe is me." There's no sports to watch. Turn on something else. There's no games.
There's no energy.
Can't be the attitude. We're going to do the show every day. We know there's no live events, and it could be a while before major sports are back again. And then even when it does, you can't even go to the games for a while. Who knows what the future holds? But there's enough to talk about, and we're all creative enough and have the right personalities that we can do 3 hours, whether we have one guest, 5 guests, no guests. Let's do this. Then we're wasting our time. If we're not ready and we're not going to do what we need to do, then why don't we just take a big hiatus and wait until social distancing is over and everything comes back as far as the games? But we're not going to do that.
Yeah, I like how Dan delegates the roles and responsibilities. It's like me as a head coach with my staff. I expect them to bring, creative thoughts, ideas. What can we do to make things better? And I think that's a great thing.
Especially in this business, there's a young whippersnapper right behind us that's ready to work for a lot less money and do what you're doing and 10 other people's jobs. And never forget, that there's just so many people that, when I tell people what I do or they come up to you, that's one of the first things they say is, how'd you get into, just like the question you asked me, how did you get into the business? How can I would love to, that's what you get a paycheck to talk sports, which you're doing. How does that happen?
You do that at the barbershop for free.
Exactly. So you're any kind of job in sports. And my son's going to Syracuse and he got into the Falk College of Sports Business Management, which we're very proud of that. They only take very few people. And, he wants to do something on the management side in sports. And, I've made it very clear to him, you better be willing to work hard. And if you can get an internship in the, communications, the sports information department, whatever they need you to do all hours of the night for no money, you smile and learn and do everything you can to build your resume and make connections. And don't be expecting a nice corner office or some big paycheck or a big pat on the back, or it's not Monday to Friday, 9 to 5. This is, there's a lot of people that want to do what you're doing, and you and I, can appreciate that for sure.
Amen to that. Amen to that. Again, ladies and gentlemen, we got Todd Fritz. We got Fritzy, the Danette from the Dan Patrick Show. You guys can hear them out here in Salt Lake City. They're on ESPN 700. They are on YouTube Live right now. They do an outstanding job. I'm sure I don't have to tell you guys that, or you wouldn't be watching right now. This is my man Fritzy watching the Coach Scott Field Show here. So again, keep the subscriptions coming. Keep the likes and follows on the Facebook page. We're having a great time chopping it up here. So Fritzy, what is it like for you right now? What's the day in the life of Fritzy? When you wake up in the morning, what time is it? How much time do you give yourself to get prepared, follow up with your guests, make sure that they're with, if they're on Zoom, do they have the Wi-Fi? If they're on the cell phone, do they, are they where there's a good connection? I mean, so kind of take us through what the day in the life of Fritz is right now.
No, I appreciate you saying that. That's a great question because there's a lot of little details beyond, so-and-so can do the show.
I'm learning that right now.
And now with these new technical aspects, especially if you want the guest visually by Zoom, but I'll get up about, I'm not a great sleeper anyway. I got sleep apnea and I'm just a mess. And all hours of the night, I'm wondering, what may be breaking at any given hour.
Your mind off.
Yeah, so I take little mini naps throughout the night, but basically by 6:30, I like to be up. The show's from 9 to noon. But if I'm up a good 2.5 hours before showtime, and if I'm in front of the computer by 7:15 the latest, and I'm probably even before that, I've been on my phone from 6:30 to 7:15. But as far as physically in place, I would say by 7:15 or so, I brought a light from the studio that they gave me for the visual aspect. I got a little Bronco lamp in the corner. Of course, I put a couple of little Sports Center Emmys in the back to give it a little look like I'm some big shot or something. Yeah. And I'm going through the websites. I'm doing research. I'm printing articles or sending guest ideas out to the guys. I'd say by 7:30, everyone's in place, whether it's those of us that are working from home. Paulie's been in the studio with Dan, but we have about a staff of about 15, half are in the studio to obey the social distancing rules and regulations. Dan said, let's, do the right thing. Some of you, especially we got a couple of guys from New York, which obviously has been hit extra hard. So So it's gone very well as long as there's no technical issues. But to your point, yeah, there's a lot of little details. There's someone that's directing that I'm sending him information about, hey, when like someone's plugging a book or whatever they're maybe plugging, I got to make sure just one person has that information so they can get it on the screen and build graphics. Another person that's handling the Zoom technical stuff. There's an IT person. Everyone's playing their role to make sure, hey, do you have this link? Make sure this guest gets this link by this time. Have them I guess it's called the waiting room when you're kind of standing by when you link in, but you're not on the air just yet. And this way we can test during the commercial break the audio and video, or if we need them to tilt up and down their laptop so we can see them better, or if there's a lighting issue. There's so many technical issues that I have to make sure those people get that. Make sure I put together a one sheet, which I'm sure you're familiar with some basic stats and questions for each guest. Dan will ultimately ask whatever he wants, but I know it's helpful if we think of some guest topics or questions that we might want to ask. I'll make sure Dan gets that either the night before or the morning of, so he has time to read through. And then I guess about 8 a.m. we'll have the morning meeting from 8 o'clock to 8:30 for about a half hour, all just talking about it. What do we want to ask? What do we hope to get out of today's guests? What other guests should we be pursuing today and in upcoming days? There's plenty of time after the show to go over guests for the next day. So we try to stay in the moment and talk about what do we want to do for these 3 hours. And then once noon hits, we can get back on with each other and say, hey, what do we want to do for tomorrow? Which we do for a good 20, 30 minutes after the show. But that's basically the day. By 6:30, I'm up. And 7:15, 7:30, the latest, we're all talking, and then that hour and a half is key to make sure by the time 9 o'clock a.m. Eastern hits, we're comfortable and we've got some kind of strong sense of what direction we want to go in. And then if there's breaking news, if in the middle of the show, whether it's something horrible or something, celebratory, whatever it is, do we want to guest on that? Do we just mention it? How do we enhance that? Obviously, Don Shula unfortunately passed away recently, so Dan Marino would be someone to hear from, but you know how that goes. You got to be prepared. I've booked guests a number of times. I had to reschedule them or cancel them because it didn't fit for the next day's show. If I had Harold Reynolds booked, say, for tomorrow, and then there's some big football or basketball story, I would hope Harold would understand, hey, can we do this another day? And it would put him in a bad spot. If everyone's talking about the Bulls and Jordan and why Isaiah didn't get on the dream team or whatever it is, you can't, we're not just filling a segment. It has to make sense for the flow of the show. And you would hope the guest wouldn't feel slighted if, every once in a while, which I hate doing, is to, because they've moved their schedule around to agree to join us, to say, hey, it just doesn't fit today with the news of the day. We're all talking about the NFL draft or some trade in basketball, and all of a sudden we put you on, and there's really no major baseball news right now. It doesn't make sense to have that guest on, and that's one of the tough parts of the job when I got to reach out to an agent or a producer or the guest themselves and say,
or the PR people,
which they don't love. And hopefully, again, if you explain it properly and professionally and say, it's really not wanting to put the guest in an awkward position to come on out of left field when we're talking about things that have nothing to do with that person or that sport. Hopefully they'd understand and not give you an attitude of like, I thought we were all set. We booked this last week. And, you'll get some of that, too. It's like, he moved, we moved all this around for that slot. And now you're saying you can't do it. It doesn't happen very often, but Dan and the guys are smart enough to know, hey, if it doesn't fit, let's not do it just to do it. It doesn't serve the audience. It doesn't help the guest. And we're not checking a box that we filled that segment now, even if it makes our lives more difficult, that that 12 minutes is gone with that guest we were going to talk to. And now we got to think of something else to do there. That's part of the challenge. And that's basically how the day goes.
Yeah, there's got to be meaning, there's got to be purpose there, and there's got to be quality content to, keep the viewers interested. So again, I wanted to ask that question because I'm learning now that I'm doing it by myself.
And it's 24/7, I'm sure, for you too.
It doesn't stop.
You're wearing all these hats. There's always something you could be doing. There's an article you could be reading. There's a guest you could be pursuing.
More research.
It's one of those jobs where there's really, it's so not 9 to 5. When the show is over, sometimes I'm busier, during the off hours of the show. I could be a lot busier than the actual 3 hours that we're on.
Checking Twitter.
You would think that 3 hours that you're actually doing the show is when, things are the craziest. But at least for what I do and my responsibilities, and look, if Dan's going to be as the great interviewer he is, I put a lot of pressure on myself. I have to deliver the big name, or not necessarily a big name, the topical newsy guest. He's so good at what he does. I have to hold up my end of the bargain and deliver the right people for him to talk to. And if that means that I'm sending out emails at 1, 2, 3 in the morning, so be it. That's, I've signed up for this, and that's for this job, for me to do it to the level that I know I can do it at, and it needs to be done for a show like the Dan Patrick Show. then I'm going to be sacrificing a lot of
Awesome.
sleep, and I'm going to have my phone next to me at the dinner table, to the chagrin of the wife and kids sometimes. So,
Yeah.
and just it's crazy, but I love it, and it's sports, and
That's
to
right.
land that exclusive interview with a guest that no one else was able to get or whatever, and then you see quotes from newspapers, or the bottom line is referring
On
to
the
the
DP
Dan
show.
Patrick Show, the Chip Up, the
That's
network
right.
that we used to all work at. It's just, again, none of that is lost on me, and that
Yeah.
competitive drive of trying to get that person on. And if they do a lot of other interviews, great. But if we can get something extra out of that person with Dan's personality and his charisma and his interviewing style, there may be a person doing 11 different interviews, but they may not get that quote that Dan.
That's right.
Somehow, because he makes the guests very comfortable. He knows a lot of these people over the years, and I think that's where the edge is. Even if it's not an exclusive interview, could be a better interview because of the way Dan asks the questions he does.
Well, what I like about DP is he makes the star and the star's comments the thing that is the show. I mean, that's the star right there.
And I that's why I've been working with him so long, because he doesn't have that kind of ego. I'm sure he knows he's great at what he does, but he doesn't flaunt that, and he wants the guest to be the star. He wants the Danettes to be the stars. It's the Dan Patrick Show, but he's the conduit. And because he's made it very clear it's not a dictatorship. The way he demands, us, whether us creatively, and he fought for us to, initially they weren't sure, do we want to have other voices besides Dan? He actually fought and said, these guys are funny. These guys are great. These guys have something to offer on the air. It'll be helpful to me to bounce things off of them besides just, reading emails or taking phone calls. And he's the one that said, Reggie Miller came up with the Danettes name.
Yeah,
but as far as the group of us actually being on the air, that was Dan. He said, let's get these guys mics, because this will make things better. And maybe hopefully we've lived up to what he hoped it would be, and more, as far as having an ensemble cast of the five of us as opposed to just Dan's voice. So.
Yeah, I love it, because again, you guys all are a star in your role, and it's fun to see that you work with and not for DP.
Yes, and he's made that very clear from the beginning. I don't think I would have worked with him this long.
You could tell.
If he had that attitude of like, you guys sit quietly, I'll take it from here, or Fritzy, here's a list of guests I want you to pursue. Let me know who's in, who's not. If it was anything like that at all, where we didn't feel like we were co-owners of the show and the content, and it wasn't a democracy, I would have been pursuing other opportunities a long time ago. So.
And you can see it too. You can see it, you can feel it, you can hear it. And when you're watching it, it's fun to watch, because again, it's like an amoeba, it just keeps evolving into something beautiful. So great. Keep up the great work.
That means a lot.
So, well, let me ask you this. And I mean, you guys have got to travel, you get to go to different sites, the Super Bowl.
We used to anyway. Well, hopefully that world will be revisited at some point.
Right. That's exactly it. Hopefully in the near future, let's get that back. If you were in Dan's chair, who is one person you would love to interview, and what would your first question be to that individual?
Wow, that's a great question. I know we've been trying to get Michael Jordan on for a while, and that's the name of the day these days.
Sure.
But and I know that's someone I've been trying to deliver for a long time, but he just doesn't do these things. Even this was, I guess, several years in the making. But selfishly, for me, and this probably isn't the right answer from a journalistic standpoint, but selfishly again, especially if it was an in-studio opportunity as opposed to a phone or a satellite or a Zoom thing, John Elway and Nolan Ryan are my two favorite athletes all time, being a big Bronco and Astro fan, even though Ryan's played for a number of other teams. But if I could sit down with Elway, the one question, it would be difficult, but I'm so to this day infatuated, and I'll still watch highlights of The Drive. It would probably be something along those lines. I'd have to still take a little time to formulate the perfect question if I only had one crack at it. But if I was able to sit down with him, and the mindset of being inside your own two while they're throwing snowballs and supposedly decel those giant batteries, and you hear these stories, I don't know how much was embellished, but this is the AFC Championship game, and it's freezing cold, and you're in the dog pound, and you're inside your own two, and those third and longs and those fourth downs, and he kept converting, and then finally the Rich Carlos kick in overtime, which, by the way, looked like it wasn't good. To this day, when they showed that, I'm like, are you sure that was it? Thankfully, they called that field goal, but it was way over the goalpost. And I, to this day, couldn't tell for sure if that field goal actually went through. But that's besides the point. And then finally, he hits Mark Jackson, number 80, part of the Three Amigos with Vance Johnson and Ricky Natilo to show off my Bronco knowledge back there, and for him to make that catch, and then not even knowing what was going to happen in overtime. I could not believe how many could. And those comebacks. it would have to be a question about the drive / some of those comebacks.
Love it.
And I know there's a number of quarterbacks that have a lot of great fourth quarter comebacks, but some of the things he did and Dan has mentioned this many times because he thinks Elway is the best quarterback of all time, even though Brady and Montana 4-0 and the Broncos got destroyed against the Giants, Redskins, and Niners, and he was 2-3 in his Super Bowls. What he did with a less than great offense was amazing. Obviously, Terrell Davis finally came along, and then they were able to get back-to-back 32 and 33 with the Packers and Falcons. But the Sammy Winders and the Gerald Willites Vance Johnson, Ricky Nattiel, Mark Jackson, Clarence Kay, they had a bunch of these guys. It's like, who? None of these were stars. And he found a way to carry this team to Super Bowl 21, Giants 22, Redskins 24, Niners. Granted, and 27-10, 39, whatever it was, 42, 10, 59, 10, 39, 12, all those blowouts. And still, 27-10 with the Cowboy, Super Bowl 12, that was Craig Morton. But seeing what happened, and I'll never forget how they actually led the Giants 10-9 at halftime, and they were beating the Redskins 10-0 in that Super Bowl, and then seeing how it unraveled and it got progressively worse, the blowouts 3 of the 4 years. Thankfully, not 4 straight like the Bills. Sorry, Bills fans. That would be, that's even worse. But it's amazing. But it would have to be a chance to sit down. I got a chance to meet him briefly a couple times and talk to him briefly on the phone. Just basically, hey, hold on for Dan. That was at the extent of my comment when he called. Hey, it's John. I'm calling in for the Dan Patrick Show, and I say a quick hi while I'm gushing, and I put him on hold because it's not my place to have a 10-minute conversation with him when we got to get him on the air. But Elway's just, I don't know. You never want to say you necessarily idolize someone, but when it comes to sports, you can throw that word around. And I've got Bronco stuff all over the place in my office, and something about the drive, and I got my Elway posters and everything. My basement's full of Bronco and Elway things. So
Orange Crush, baby, the Orange Crush.
It's just great. It's great. I still watch old highlights and can't believe some of the things he pulled out in the final minutes of games when it was just over and 4th and long, and they still won some of these games with, again, an offense that was questionable. And just to take your team, to have that kind of leadership and confidence and carry a team like that on your back, it's just it's incredible.
Yeah, it's great. Love the answer. Because again, I was curious, who it'd be if you was in that chair.
Dan would pick Michael Jordan as far as who's the one interview.
I know he loves Jerry West too. He loves Jerry.
Oh, he loves Jerry. But we've had him on, thankfully, which has been great. He loves Johnny
job.
Bench, and there's certain guy, Hank Aaron. There are people that he holds in extremely high regard, where you could see him getting emotional interviewing some of these people, how much they meant to him or his dad growing up.
Awesome.
But as far as that elusive interview, we've had Tiger on, not recently, but we've had Gretzky, and just think some of the greats and Montanas and all that, and. Brady was on the show, but not recently. I don't think we've ever had Belichick on, who would be obviously very interesting, but I don't think that's happening anytime soon. But Jordan would be the big get, that we like to say in the business for the Dan Patrick Show. But for me, you sit me down with 7, and it's all good. After that, it's all gravy after that.
I like it. Well, can you remember the first time in the industry that you were ever starstruck, where you were just like, you couldn't talk, or you couldn't speak, or you couldn't even approach him because you were just like, wow, there he is. Who was that one person that you got really starstruck over?
I think it was actually a group, and I'm going to end up leaving somebody out, but when I was working on Up Close in Hollywood with Firestone, one of my jobs, other than when I was booking the show, is I would go into the green room just to see if they needed anything to eat or drink, make sure they were, they got there on time and they were in makeup and everything was on schedule, shake hands with the agent or PR person or whoever may have showed up with them. But being a big Bronco fan, but also a big Astros fan. Well, there was 2. One was Mike Shanahan showing up in the lobby. That was just really exciting. But I walk into the Astros were in town to play the Dodgers. I guess that's how you get these visiting teams. I used to wonder that as a little kid. How do they get players from all these different teams? And then I realized it's like that team's in town to play the Lakers or the Clippers or the Dodgers or Angels. And that's why, what would the Astros be doing in Hollywood? That's because they got a 3-game series with the Dodgers. So anyway, once I figured that out when I was a little kid watching Up Close from my apartment in Brooklyn, and now I'm actually in Hollywood, 3,000 miles away, booking these guests. Another wild thing, you never know where the world's going to take you. And Jeff Bagwell, and I think it was Bill Doran and Ken Caminiti, maybe Dickie Thon. But it was basically the whole Astros infield. We invited like as many, whoever we can get. We just, they were playing really well, whatever it was. But basically, the entire Astros infield was sitting in the green room, and I had been rooting for the Astros since like 1980, the Rainbow Stripe days.
That's right.
And they were up 2-0 on the Phillies, and then lost the next 3 in the divisional play. But anyway, so I'm walking in there, and I'm like, that was one of those moments where I'm like, this is a pretty cool gig that I had. Besides all the other athletes and celebs and the Adam Sandlers and Will Ferrells and Chris Rocks and all these different people in sports and in entertainment that you get a chance to meet. One of those that pops in my mind where I'm like, wow, this is a big deal. I'm a 23, 24-year-old kid in Hollywood, and nice little Jewish boy from Brighton Beach, Brooklyn. Now I'm in Hollywood, and I rooting for the Astros all those years, and like '86, that crazy NLCS with the Mets. Even though I'm in New York and I'm rooting against the Mets, and I'm in New York, and the same year, by the way, that I'm rooting for the Astros to beat the Mets, I'm rooting for the Broncos to beat the Giants in Super Bowl 21.
Oh, wow.
It's amazing I didn't get killed. I'm in New York rooting against the Mets and Giants because I like the Broncos and Astros.
Right.
I was like a junior, senior in high school, and they're like, why do you want the Broncos and Astros to beat the Giants and Mets? No one could understand that. But I had my orange and blue colors, and I didn't care. But when I saw the Astros infield sitting there and they knew me by name, I guess through the PR guy must have said, hey, this who it was booked by, or so-and-so's coming into the green room to come say hi to you. And just hearing like a Jeff Bagwell or a Biggio, I think was in there too. Like, just saying, hey, Todd, thanks for having us on. I'm like, are you kidding me? Bagwell and Craig Biggio are thanking me.
Wow, that's awesome.
This is just nuts.
That's awesome. Ladies and gentlemen, we got Fritzy, Mr. Todd Fritz of the DP show. Yes, he is Mr. Section Row Seat. And so are you working on any new material? Are you doing any new stand-up kind of stuff?
I've thought about a couple of things. Nothing. They keep pushing me, but I don't know if because they're a little mean-spirited, my group. I don't know how much they're pushing me because they want to see me, succeed. Not to be a famous comedian, but like I had told them a long time, I love making people laugh even when I was a kid. Right. And not that I'm not going to be the next George Carlin or Chris Rock or anything like that, but thankfully one of the guys that I worked with pushed me, and he set up some gigs, and I had done Caroline's, which I had no business being on stage at Caroline's in New York, and the Comedy Store in LA, and then when we were at the Super Bowls in Minnesota and Atlanta.
Love it.
I went to local, but those are basically the 4 times I did some stand-up. But I think they want me to do it because they want to me to get embarrassed, and they can humiliate me and use it. Exactly. That's the key word. It's always about content for the show. So I'm like, are they really supporting my comedy career, or they want to see me fall flat on my face so they can play clips of the non-laughing going on and play it on the show? So the jury's still out on that. I would love to collaborate with some other comedians, and at some point maybe go up there again. But it's very nerve-wracking to do that. When you got to have a lot of guts, to say the least. It's one thing to be on the air like you and I talking sports. When you're going on stage, you're basically having somewhat of an ego. You're saying, I think I'm pretty funny, and I'm going to make you all laugh. And you paid money to be here, and you got 2 drink minimums or whatever they're paying, and they're bringing their wives or girlfriends, and there's a bunch of people there staring at you, expecting you to make them laugh, and you're trying to remember what you're going to say and the order of the material and how you're going to say it and what facial expressions. There's so much that goes through that. I have so much respect for comedians that can do and come up with new material and do it over and over again.
Kevin Hart, man. Wow.
But different crowds and different personalities, different age groups from around the country.
That's right.
And keeping it fresh, or even if you're doing the same act over and over again, keeping it fresh for yourself. So you can, you have to be entertained yourself and to make other people, find you funny. 100%. So I haven't done it in a while. I can't believe I even had the guts to do that. And a Sunset Strip at the Comedy Store in Caroline's. What am I doing on those stages with the greats of comedy? Because of Dan's connections and the power of the show, they let me do that. But, for the record, not that I even have to clarify anything, I have no business being, on stage at Caroline's in New York City or at the Comedy Store in Hollywood. But I did it, and I'm proud of it. And
good for you.
I don't know when the next one's going to be, but it's something that was on the bucket list of stand-up comedy. Even if it was for a moment, and it was even, no one's calling me for any kind of comedy special anytime soon on Netflix or HBO or anything. But I did it, and I didn't throw up on stage or trip or have it soil my pants or anything. I got it, did it. Maybe I didn't get as many laughs as I would have liked, but I was introduced. I did it. I handed it off to the host of the next comedian, and it's something I did 4 times, including New York and LA, and not a lot of people can say that.
Well, I'll tell you what, that's a couple of things I'm going to have to do. I'm going to have to get me a DP shirt, and I'm going to have to get me a Section Row Seat shirt, and I'm going to rock that out here in Salt Lake City.
I appreciate the support.
I got your back out here with all these Mormons. Don't even worry.
And you are legitimately interested. You're not, because it's content for them. For you, when you say that, I know it's genuine, and you just want to. There's nothing.
I'm showing love, man. I'm showing love.
They're faux love with my group. We'll encourage him to do it. I'm sure they're whispering behind closed doors, and then it'll be a disaster. And then
watch him blow up. He's gonna die. He's dying.
No one's laughing. This is great. We're gonna play this on the show tomorrow. I know.
That's so cool. Well, Fritzy, man, this has been so much fun. Gosh, I was prepared, man. I sit there and I had all my notes. I
I
had
hope we
stuff
got to
going.
most of it. I tend to ramble on. I hope you
No,
were able to get to most of it.
this is awesome. No, it's been great, and would have to have you come back on again. Like I'm saying, I'm a huge fan of the show, and to have you come on and chop it up, it's been therapeutic for me, because again, these are tough times, and
Yes,
we can't thank the essential workers enough. And like your
Well
wife
said.
right now, God bless her, because I can't imagine being a teacher sitting on this platform and having like 15 kids and then trying to teach
It's
and
amazing.
instruct
And
keep
she's
their
a reading,
attention.
yeah, and she's a reading teacher that's dealing with like kindergarten,
Wow.
first, second grade
Oh,
kids that are having trouble with reading. So she's trying to somehow keep these kids afloat and not
wow.
having to
God
get left
bless her.
back. And not only that, but she's also had to rearrange her schedule just from a technical standpoint, because if she's doing her chats while I'm doing the show, we get technical issues, or
yeah, the
something, my
bandwidth
mic
gets
pops.
stolen.
No, it's true. It's true. And she has been kind enough to move her schedule to everything be after 12 o'clock, because there were a couple
Wow.
of times she was doing something in the morning, or one of the kids was doing something, and all of a sudden Dan's image is getting cloudy, or I'm hearing every other word, or they're telling me when we go to commercial break that they couldn't hear what I was saying, or was making popping noises. And I'm like, this can't work. And they were teasing me on the air. It's like, can you tell the family you got a national radio and TV show going on? As important as the students are and the teacher, it's like, can they, he said it half jokingly, but there was a bit of seriousness in it. Can you have them adjust their schedules to start their day somehow? And thankfully, my wife Jen has been gracious enough to make her schedule so that it's after we're off the air, so we don't run into sharing the same internet issues.
Well, see, that's what I do, because my son, he loves playing PlayStation, and so I'm like, oh, hey, please just give me this hour just so I can do my
Which is
thing.
fair for you to ask that. My son's in the basement all hours of the day and night, and I can't tell him not to play. There's nothing else to do. He had his senior year taken away from him. There's going to be they just announced this morning in Connecticut, school is done for the rest of the year. So it's e-learning the rest of the way. There was supposed to be a June 10th graduation, and now it's going to be some kind of virtual thing, or the principal's going to drive around the neighborhood throwing diplomas to the front lawn, or whatever they're going to do. So the least I can do, and he can't see his friends and social distancing, so if he wants to stay up late and play his Xbox or PlayStation, I can't really argue that, because he's getting cheated out of the last couple of months of his senior year in high school. So.
Well, God bless your wife and what she's doing. Thank her. Thanks to all the essential people out there. But
absolutely,
thank you for what you and the DP show does, because you hold it down every day. You keep people entertained. You keep people laughing, and you keep quality content streaming. And that I thank you, because hey, you get me through my morning every morning, you guys. So keep it up, and God bless you all, man.
Well, that means a great deal. Thanks for having me on. I'm glad to join you anytime. And again, it meant a lot for you to think of me, and the kind words about the show goes a long way. I appreciate that very much.
Oh, that's very sincere, my friend. Ladies and gentlemen, again, this is Todd Fritzy from the back row. He does a great job with an executive producer with the DP show. I'm a huge fan, and just to have him on here, sitting here chopping it up while he's on the East Coast and I'm clear out here in Salt Lake City, this is a lot of fun, brothers. Great to be able to connect.
Thanks, Coach. Stay well. And again, we appreciate you, the kind words, and thinking of me to invite me on the show. I really enjoyed it.
Okay, I'm gonna have to get with you about them T-shirts. I gotta do that.
I have to get your address. We'll take care of you.
Oh, you're the best, man. God bless, and be safe. I'm gonna cue that music one more time. This is for the Orange Crush, those Broncos, baby. I'm gonna have to give me some nice headphones like that too. I gotta step my game up. Ladies and gentlemen, Todd Fritz, the DP show. It's been a fun time. Hey, you got a nice hook shot, but I'm a coach. I'll help you with that shot.
I could use some help. My dad used to do it all the time. When I was growing up, I'd go down to the neighborhood parks in Brighton Beach and all over Brooklyn, and he did the windmill softball. He was quite the athlete. But if he would have pursued it, I'm confident he could have played professionally. Anyway, he did the windmill softball. He used to, and then basketball, he could do a hook shot, either standing still or a running hook with both hands. And he was playing with guys on the court much younger than him. And I just remember being on my little big wheel and my little bike, watching him hit these hook shots. And I just wanted to be like him. And then playing with my older brother, playing with bigger kids, the hook shot, you have a better chance of it being less of a chance of being blocked. If you're shooting like this and you're playing with much bigger kids. Yep. So I learned, that was another reason.
Hey, you got that thing, you got extended out there too.
Oh, absolutely. So I'm copying my father, and I'm realizing that if I'm shooting it sideways from back here, I could get it over these big kids' heads of my brother, who's 2 years older than me. I'd always play with the older kids, and they were usually taller. And I'm like, it may be a wild shot, and it only goes in once in a while, but it's not getting blocked because I'm releasing it from all the way back here. So
hey,
it was mainly for my dad.
Hey, I'm going to help you with that jump shot. So that way, when your tournament gets going again, you're going to have a nice. They're going to think you're Klay Thompson.
Yeah, we're looking forward to getting the okay to play basketball again, because I know we had fun that last year, and I appreciate you remembering that we have that basketball league going.
That's great stuff. But hey, you tell DP I got something for him. I'm a hoop.
I will, and you better be scared.
Hey, be blessed and have a good evening. I appreciate you.
Thanks for
appreciate you. All right, man. God bless. You bet.
Be well.